All right, I believe we're live. Welcome back, Truth Seeker. We got a game that's about to start in just minutes. That is the Marlins at the New York Mets. And I want to review what happened yesterday, but I just want to say about this game, in case you're humming and hawing on it, the Mets could get their 27th win versus the NL East. And today has 27 date numerology, August 7th, 2019. So Mets could pick up the 27th win versus the NL East plus Miami's 27. And that does have some rhyme and reason to it. In the period of date numerology inconsistency, it has been most consistent in the division records, in the rivalries, the teams that play in the same division. So, and just beyond the date numerology, this is the last game of this series between these teams, so it would make sense for the Mets to get that 27th win versus the NL East versus Miami, and because today has the 27 date numerology. So I suspect the Mets will take that first game. The Mets would also get their 59th win of the season. So let me make that note too. Miami Marlins equals 59. Mets can pick up 59th win a season. And so anyway, that looks like a pretty good game there. And then there's nothing that really scares about anything else. So before we get to the rest of today's games, I just wanted to cover that one since it's the first game up. Wanted to go back and look at yesterday. Maybe I'll put this in the chat too, just for people who get here late. I know you guys read the chat. Let me see if that shows up right. Okay. Somebody said, my God, NFL preseason finally. Well, we had that last week with the Hall of Fame game. So, anyway, yesterday's games, I find it real funny that this day in history was real good for us the first week we looked at it where we did the full decodes, and now that we've slimmed it down and we're looking at a few things, this day in history has been real bad. But again, to go over yesterday's game, so we were looking at how on this day in history, had the Blue Jays won, they would have been 18-18, and they were playing seemingly the perfect opponent to get it done. The Rays, they could have become 18-18 on this day in history. Rays equals 18. Prior to the last 2 days, we'd seen this tracking at a very high percentage. The last 2 days, it's gone 1 for 4. So the Blue Jays lost, so that didn't happen. They became 17-19 on this day in history. The Angels game was a wash because it could have gone either way for this day in history. The Royals had a chance at their 22nd loss in this day in history. Where's their game at? The Royals could have picked up their 22nd loss on this day in history. Boston's 22. They were playing in Boston. They beat Boston on the road. Get an upset. The Astros, we pointed out they could get their 23rd win on this day in history. They were playing Colorado. Colorado's 83, the 23rd prime. Haven't really tracked it through the prime number relationships with teams where that exists. The Astros did win, but the Astros are the better team at home, so the one game that did come through for this day in history isn't even the typical read, and could have been for other reasons. The Cardinals also had a shot at their 73rd win on this day in history, and Los Angeles Dodgers is 73. They lost as well, 1-3, familiar score in LA. So I don't know if we got lucky the first week looking at this day in history because it just kept coming through. Or what's going on. Again, there's the reason the trolls hang around here 24/7. And for anyone who listened to the live stream yesterday for the golf decode, the little troll who called in, listen to that voice again. It's not hard to hear that he's part of the Small Hat Club. That's what their voices sound like. So it's probably somebody's child. I'd imagine that the trolls that do hang around here are children of the Small Hats. I'd bet $1 million on it, to be perfectly honest. So, and when I say small hats, I'm talking about the ones who run media and sports and, run the papers that have written the articles over the years making fun of my work, I have no doubt that's who the trolls are. Little kids that are related to these families. But it's also possible that, some games are getting twisted because of the patterns we catch on to. So, can't say that we observed this day in history long enough, but it does feel really weird that it was good for the first week, and then when we zero in on it, all of a sudden it's no good. It's strange. Okay. The date numerology yesterday, the Brewers, they had a chance at their 26th away win. They did get it. They picked up the 26th away win on the 26th date. The Blue Jays had a chance to stay on 26 away wins. That's what would have gone against this day in history. So the Blue Jays did stay on 26 away wins on the 26th date. The Reds were on 26 home losses. They did stay on 26 home losses. The A's were on 26 away losses. They stayed on 26 away losses. And the Phillies and D-backs game was a wash because the 26 could go either way in that game. Caller?
Yeah, I want to hear the little piece of shit's voice. Whereabouts was it?
It was early in the golf decode yesterday.
Yeah, but what about what time during how far in?
Not very far in at all. Just minutes after it started.
All right, I'll check it out. Hey, I sent you that picture of this day in history. It's funny. I mean, do they do that all the time on the broadcast where they put up this day in history? Because I thought it was funny on August 5th. They had this thing on the telecast out here in the Diamondbacks game. It was the first televised game in history in Pittsburgh, and they showed the score of the game on 8-5 in this day in history.
Huh. That's interesting.
Did you see that? Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I sent it this morning.
Oh, wait. I saw the thing you sent me about the cross. Hold on.
Right, but then I sent you something right after that, and it was this day in history. I caught it on the Diamondbacks telecast out here, and I'm like, why are they even fucking showing something that has to do with Pittsburgh? It wasn't even Pittsburgh playing. It was the Phillies and the D-backs, but it was on August 5th, and I guess it was the first televised game in history. But you can see what the score of the game was.
Yeah, 8-5 on August 5th. Perfect.
It's just, so I was kind of wondering, do they always do this, or they just started doing this because now you're following this? It just kind of makes you wonder, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, you can even see, but even back then, scripted to the point, and Pittsburgh equals 58, so perfect score for a Pittsburgh game.
Exactly.
Yeah, good observation.
That's all I had, man. I'll go back and listen to the little fucker's voice.
Yeah, it's not hard to hear what tribe he's a part of, so.
Hey, have a good one, man.
All right, take care. Okay. So, the 26 game where it could have gone either way, the Diamondbacks ended up taking that one. The Phillies, had they not lost, they would have stayed on 53 losses because it was a 53 date numerology as well. But like I was saying yesterday, it's usually the date numerology that tracks is in the 20 pattern. The Padres had a chance to stay on 26 away wins as well. They did not do that. But if you just played the 26 games, you would have won with the Brewers. You would have won with the Blue Jays losing. You would have won with the Reds not losing. You would have won with the Athletics not losing. You probably would have avoided this game because it was a wash. And, oh wait, hold on. Giants. What did the Giants do? Well, the Giants would have been wrong. So the Giants and the Padres were the teams that didn't fall through. That was NL West teams. So you would have won on 1, 2, 3, 4, and lost on 2. So that's a 2-to-3 ratio. That's a sign that we could be getting back into a date numerology flow. And so we're going to, again, look at the date numerology today. For the 50-something method, again, I never put a lot of weight on this method. The Reds advanced off 53 wins. They stayed on the 26 home losses. Again, the better method. The Rockies had a chance at their 53rd win. I think they were a later game. That was against the Astros. They didn't get that. The Phillies didn't stay on 53 losses. They lost. The Nationals did stay on 53 losses. And the Cardinals picked up an extra loss. So anyway, that's not the date numerology method that really matters anyhow. It's this one. And out of the games where it could have hit without it being a conflict, it was 4 out of 6. So not bad. So if we continue to get ratios like that, then that'll be a sign that the date numerology is coming back. And then the prime number games, the Tigers were on their 109th game for the first game of the doubleheader. That's the 29th prime. They could have stayed on 29 division losses. They didn't. Again, staying on numbers usually isn't where it's at. It's more about picking it up. You know, if it was their 109th game and they were going for the 29th loss or the 29th win, that would be the kind of read you wanted. The Pirates, it was their 113th game. They could have stayed on 30 home losses. And again, staying on it. Not the read you want, but I'm just documenting just for the sake of documenting. They didn't stay on it. In the Yankees, they could have stayed on 30 away wins. They also didn't. So staying's not what you want. You want picking up the number. But I'm thinking maybe the date numerology is coming back. So that's better than I've seen in a while. Okay, so for today's date numerology games, again, this first game up today looks like a good one. The Mets could get their 27th win in the NL East versus the Marlins. Miami's 27 as well, so you got the date numerology and the Gematria. Plus, that would give the Mets their 59th win of the season. Miami Marlins 59. So that looks good. That looks like a good read. The Blue Jays, for more than a week, we looked way down the schedule looking at the last two Blue Jays series, and we said, well, if they finish the Rays series 47-70, that would make a whole lot of sense because Tampa Bay is 47 and Tropicana Field 70. 47-70. So if the Blue Jays can upset the Rays today, they will get there. If the Blue Jays won today, they would pick up their 27th away win of the season. Rays is also 27. Again, they get the 47th total win. Tampa Bay's 47. And they'd stay at 70 losses. Let me update that note. The argument for the Rays is just to stay on 27 home losses and to stay on 49 losses. Let me see. Blue Jays is 49, so again, the Marlins just had a great narrative to upset the Rays before this series, and they did not do it, so that's the other one thing going through my mind, but that Blue Jays 47-70 would be perfect. The A's today, they could pick up their 27th away loss. Cubs also equals 27. So that would make some sense. You got the 27 date numerology. You got the 27 opponent. Notice both pitchers are 9-7. 9-7. The big athletics number. And we talked about that. Quintana's last start getting to 9-7 to face the A's. The Cardinals, if they lost today, they would stay on 27 away wins. Cardinals would also pick up their 55th loss, and Los Angeles is 55. Let me check that real quick. Is this the last game of this series here? Looks like it is. So I'm going to add that to the note. Cardinals can pick up 55th loss. Los Angeles 55. Cardinals could stay on 54 losses, 54 date. But again, this date numerology not as significant, so. All right, the Padres, they could stay on 27 away wins today. And the Mariners could get their 27th home win on the 27 date numerology. And the Brewers have a shot at their 27th away win today. They can get number 27. The Diamondbacks can also get their 27th home win today. So those are the 27s on the board. Yesterday it came through at a ratio of 2-1. So I would expect something near the same ratio today. Again, I'm not as big of a fan as staying on the number, but plenty of the games yesterday where a team could stay on the number with the date numerology, they did in the 20-something, bracket, which again is the best date numerology method. And the Mets, if they win this early game, that'd be a good sign for the later games. But the Mets riddle is also stronger. The Mets riddle is probably the strongest out of all the date numerology riddles today. Because again, not only is it the 27 date, but it's the 27 opponent, and they can get that 59th win of the season. Miami Marlins is 59. Caller?
Hey, Zach, I like that Brewers game, man. Because it's like a real ESPN game. So to get that 27 on 27 day, ESPN 27.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So.
Yeah. So I think that's a real good one for today. To add in the parlays.
Right. You know what? I was gonna say I was gonna get to the pitcher riddles today too, and I noticed that Trevor Williams could fall to 4-5 versus the Brewers. Brewers is 45. They seem to put out that number. Now that you pointed out the ESPN thing, though, that's just the one thing that stood out to me about Trevor Williams' record. I'd say that was the upset narrative, him becoming 5-4 on ESPN. But
yeah, but check this out, Zach. What I noticed too, and I fucked up last week. ESPN equals 45-2 in EP-exception.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, they're just 54 with both the ordinal ciphers, but yeah, the Brewers date numerology riddle I would say is still the better one. So.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yep, I like that.
Okay.
That's all I wanted for right now, boss man.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. See you. Okay. The Rangers can stay on 54 losses again. I'm just documenting these things, but this is the weaker date numerology path. The Rangers could stay on 54 losses. They have a doubleheader. They'd have to win both games to do that. The Cardinals, that would be their one hope to beat the Dodgers today, is to stay on 54 losses on the 54 date. But they can also stay on 27 away wins. That's the more likely number to stay on. That's the stronger date numerology. Why did I write this day in history? Why did I write that? I didn't mean to write that. Let me think. The Nationals could pick up their 54th loss, and the Phillies can stay on 54 losses. Those are the ones in the 50 path. But again, I wouldn't give them a lot of weight. Like the odds of the Phillies staying on 54 versus the Diamondbacks picking up the 27th home win, I'd say that's a lot better odds for the Diamondbacks to get that 27. There's only one prime relationship I see on the board for the games today. It's the Padres' 113th game, which is the 30th prime. And again, staying on the numbers not real strong. If the Padres won, they'd stay on 30 away losses. But again, the Mariners are going for that 27th home win. Can keep the Padres on 27 away wins. I think that's a lot more likely. Plus, what I should have noted with that Mariners game is Padres equals 27. So good team to get the 27th win against on the 27 date. All right, now for the pitcher riddles, things that stood out with the pitchers today. Come back up here to the top. The pitcher Nova could become 7-9 on the season today for the White Sox, and Detroit Tigers is 79. So a good team to become 7-9 against. Gerardo with a loss would be 6-7. Cleveland Indians 67. We've seen that number come up a bunch with the Indians. Martin Perez with a loss would be 8-5. Twins is 85. So that stands out. Peter Lambert, his riddle to upset Houston is to win and become 3-2. Because Houston's 32. But I should also note that Colorado equals 83, the 23rd prime. And we saw the 83-23 thing factor into yesterday. Could have been for other reasons, but it did play out that way. The Astros got their 23rd win all-time on this day in history yesterday against Colorado. Again, Colorado 83, the 23rd prime. And let's see. Sean Anderson for the Giants. If he lost, he would be 3-4. Giants is 34. And Trevor Williams for the Brewers. If he lost, he would be 4-5. Brewers is 45. Remember, the Brewers are also going for that 27th win on the 27 date numerology. Game is on ESPN, and caller just pointed out the ESPN thing. Remember, ESPN did begin as a baseball exclusive network, and notice how ESPN's 54-18, 54-18. Baseball is 54 in two of the base ciphers and 18. So when ESPN began, that's what it focused on, baseball. But he's saying if you use the what did he say? If you use the rules with the reduction cipher, ESPN's also 45. So Major League's 45 as well. Again, when you add 1 through 9, it's 45. And today's date numerology would break down to 9. John Means, the young ace for the Orioles, his riddle to upset the Yankees today is to become 9-6, because Orioles is 96. There's nothing else that, well, you know, it's tricky with the 39, because if the Yankees don't lose, they'll stay on 39 losses. Orioles is 39. If the Orioles won, they'd get their 39th win. Guess I'll make a note about it here. Orioles could get 39th win. New York's 39. Yankees could stay on 39 losses. Orioles is 39. Okay. Jason Vargas, again, just got traded over from the Mets to the Phillies. He's going up against Zach Gallen. Interesting that the Marlins already traded this guy. Remember, he was the guy that just made his debut this season. Drafted by St. Louis, made his debut against St. Louis. Now they traded him to the Diamondbacks. But if Vargas won today, he would be 7-5, and Diamondbacks is 75. So that would be the hope for the Phillies to stay on 54 losses. But remember, the Diamondbacks have that narrative of going for the 27th win on the 27 date. So it makes that game, probably stay away from this game today just because of the riddles going both ways. So anyway, I'm not doing the full baseball decode like we were doing. Let's also just go over this day in history. I want to look at it one more time. It was really good last week. So far, Monday and Tuesday, it's gone 1 for 4. And the one that did come through yesterday, I almost didn't even want to credit it because it was a little bit more abstract, and it was a really good team at home winning. So the one win that did come through yesterday, not real encouraging for the stat either. But after it's starting off so good for us for the first week, I'm just surprised that 2 days in a row it's been a bum. So hold on, let's just do it in real time. Go over it together. This day in history. Okay. Pull up the Pro Baseball Reference site here. MLB scores August 7th. All right, so we got a double header here. The Rangers are 24 and 29. Indians are 44 and 64. If the Indians lost both games, they could get to 66 losses and have 44 wins. Texas is 66, Rangers is 44. All right, so they'd have to lose both. And then there was something about the Rangers. They could stay on 54 losses on the 54 date, but there's not a lot of traction with that date numerology path. All right, so that's that. The Marlins and the Mets. Marlins are 10 and 15. Mets are 27 and 28. So they're already on the 27. Okay, nothing with that. The Blue Jays and the Rays. 24 losses. Nothing with that. Braves and the Twins. Braves, Twins. Again, I haven't seen any patterns with date numerology in this day in history. So like the Braves, they could get their 54th loss on this day in history. I'll just note it. Down here is a separate thing. Okay. Okay, that's the doubleheader again. White Sox and Tigers. 56-51, 57-49. Nothing with that. The Rockies and the Astros. 8 and 16, 21 and 26. All right, I'm just going to jot down. The Rockies pitcher had a narrative to upset today. The A's and the Cubs. Athletics could get the 55th loss. Chicago Cubs is 55. Cubs can get the 58th win. Oakland's 58. So both sides. So there was already something looking good for there was already something good looking for the Cubs today. And come back up to that Cubs game. It was that the Athletics could get the 27th away loss on the 27 date numerology, and Cubs equals 27. So we had that. Now you have it agreeing in this day in history on both sides. Games, games where it had been that way in the weekend that it was tracking well, where it lined up on both sides, they'd all come through. And it was bad days in a row, but still, over the course of the time we've been looking at it, which is over a week now, it's still been a winning stat, just not the last 2 days. So, going to keep an eye on that. And I'd say that's one more good sign for the Cubs today. The Cardinals and the Dodgers. If the Cardinals lost, they'd get their 59th loss. Dodger Stadium's 59. Dodgers could get the 54th loss on the 54 date. Now I haven't seen anything with stadiums actually. It's been where it was tracking and was with the city and team nicknames or the full name. I'm just gonna make a little separate one. The Cardinals could get 59th loss on this day in history. Dodger Stadium equals 59. And we saw the Dodgers could get the 54th loss. Okay. Nationals, Giants. Nationals are on 25 wins. I haven't seen anything about staying on numbers. Washington, D.C. is 61. We've seen some D.C. numbers come up with the Nationals, so I'm just going to document that the Giants could get the 61st loss. Padres and Mariners, 21 and 22, 22 and 17. No. It's San Diego Padres. If you use the rule for S, San Diego Padres is 83, the 23rd prime. Be a little bit abstract like yesterday. I'm going to document it anyhow. Mariners could get 23rd win on this day. 23rd prime. Maybe there is something to the prime number relationships for this day in history. Okay. Yankees and Orioles. Yankees' next loss is 47. Nothing with that. Brewers and Pirates. Brewers could get their 27th loss on this day in history. Again, I haven't seen any pattern with it, but I'm just documenting it. Okay. The Royals and the Red Sox. I don't see anything with those numbers. Phillies and the D-backs. I just see the Diamondbacks could become 12-9. Synagogue's 129. I just always think of the word synagogue with Philadelphia. That game's dangerous. Okay. I'm going to make a note here. The last 2 days, this day in history has come through at a ratio of 25%. So losing at a rate of 3 to 1. Prior to that, it was above 70%. Caller?
Hi, is Manuel there?
I think you got the wrong number.
Oh, well, maybe you can help me. My name is John, calling on behalf of the National Police and Trooper Association. The reason we're giving you a call is to let you know.
Oh, I hate that, man. I haven't gotten this call for a minute. This is an automated thing. Because I live in a Hispanic area, that's how they do it.
I'm actually talking to a live person.
That is just such a gimmick how they call it and act like it. No. Oh my goodness. There's your police department for you. Okay. And no, I definitely don't want to donate. Okay. So I wanted to make this note. The last 2 days, this day in history has come through at a ratio of 25%, so very bad. But for the week before that we looked at it, it was good. So I'm not writing it off yet. It just seems weird to me that when we were looking at it before, we were mixing it in with everything else we looked at. We really zeroed in on it, and the days we zeroed in on it, it's been abysmal. But all right. I guess I can put this one up here. Okay. So again, the Mets are up on the Marlins early, and again, that looks like one of the better date numerology reads of the day, because again, the Mets can get their 27th win versus the NL East. Today's date numerology in the strong method is 27. Not only is it the date numerology, but Miami's 27. It would also give the Mets their 59th win. Miami Marlins is 59. The other date numerologies today, if you got here late. Yesterday, the date numerologies, 4 were right, 2 were wrong in the 20-something path. So that's a ratio of about 66%. When date numerology's on, you can just do lazy decodes each day, and for like a 2-week stretch, you'll hit on at least 66% of your games each day because every game will just follow the date numerology. But it's been several weeks since the date numerology's been on. There's been days where it's flashed, but we haven't seen any consistency. So again, I'm going to watch today, see if the date numerology is back on. If it's on today, if it's on tomorrow, that's probably a good sign that we're getting back into the date numerology groove. And I don't understand how it ebbs and flows, but seemingly it does for baseball, at least this season. So you just got to catch it when it's there. But the Mets, they got a nice riddle today. The Blue Jays have an upset narrative, and if the Blue Jays do win today, they'll achieve what we talked about more than a week ago, them finishing 47-70 by the end of this series with the Rays. Again, we looked at, before the last series began, we looked ahead for whatever reason for the Blue Jays, and I just saw, if they finish that Rays series 47-70, it'd be perfect, because Tampa Bay's 47, Tropicana Field's 70, so they have to win today to do that. They would pick up their 27th away win on the 27 date. Blue Jays on the road against a good opponent's obviously a risk, but the narrative is there. And the A's look like they're in trouble today. They can get the 27th away loss on the 27 date. Cubs equals 27. And what was the one other thing we caught? This day in history. Was that what it was? Yeah, it was this day in history. The Athletics could get their 55th loss on this day in history. Chicago Cubs is 55. And the Cubs can get their 58th win. Oakland's 58. So, to me, the Cubs look pretty good today. They got the date numerology. Even though this day in history has been off the last 2 days, I like that it lines up on both sides. Plus, I just like the date numerology riddle. Cubs 27. That all makes a bunch of sense to me. Let me double-check the interleague play records with these teams. Cubs are 9-8. They get 10-8. Major League. Broke the World Series drought at 108 years. Cubs and Oakland. Well, Oakland could do the prime number thing. That's about all I can say there. If they lost, they'd be 10-6. Oakland Athletics is 106. I'm not going to sweat that too much. I guess if the Cubs lost, they would be 9-9. Wrigley's 99. Illinois 99. Well, yeah, the interleague play record, though, it's been hit and miss, too. I still like the Cubs riddle overall. So, and again, there were a lot of teams that stayed on the number yesterday, too. If you just played all the 26s yesterday, you would have done well. You would have had a winning percentage. Let me see. The Cardinals. Again, the Cardinals are facing the Dodgers. If they lost today, they would stay on 27 away wins on the 27 date. They'd also pick up their 55th loss. Los Angeles is 55. The Cardinals' one hope today is to stay on 54 losses. I should make one more note here about the Cardinals. Cardinals could get 59th win. They haven't won yet in this series. Los Angeles Dodgers equals 59. And the Dodgers have won the last 2 days, right? I know they won yesterday. And they won game 1, too, right? Yeah. So that means the Dodgers are 2-4 versus the Cardinals. So the Cardinals are 4-2 versus the Dodgers. And that means that if the Dodgers won today, Cardinals would become 4-3 versus Los Angeles. St. Louis is 43. 43 is the 14th prime. LA's 14. So Dodgers were up 4-0 before this series began, but they'd won all those games in St. Louis. All right, and then this Padres-Mariners game, you can get the Mariners with the 27th home win on the 27 date, keeping the Padres at 27, and Padres equals 27 as well. So I think that's a good sign for the Mariners. They're pretty big underdogs at home. Let's see anything with the interleague records. And again, the Brewers also going for that 27th away win on the 27 date. And the Diamondbacks are another team that has a shot at the 27. So if I see, if all of us see the date numerology come through at least a ratio of 2 out of 3, that should be a good sign for tomorrow. Because the date numerology hasn't come through at a positive ratio 2 days in a row for several weeks. So have a little bit more confidence going into that third day. If it hits the third day as well, which is tomorrow, then I think we'll be back in the groove. So that's what I would like to see. And that said, we can leave it there with baseball. I'll be sure to post all the notes. Again, I still got to finish up my NFL notes. It's taken me longer than I thought to finish up. But let's see what's going on here. Any football news worth talking about? We got the Browns up there today. Let's see, preseason week 1. There was a big theme between all the games, so spend some time looking at this, and we can talk preseason tomorrow. I don't know if it's smart to bet preseason. The Hall of Fame game was different because it was a clear ritual, but typically I don't. There might be some games here that we can sneak out. Broncos, like here we go, Broncos and Seahawks. I think they might. Did they play each other the first week of the preseason last year, or was it the first week of the season? But last year it was a riddle with Super Bowl 48. Again, this was your Super Bowl 48 matchup where the Seahawks beat the Broncos. And again, Super Bowl 48, the Seahawks won. Seahawks is 48, and they won with 43 points. Seattle, whoops, got to spell it right. Seattle Seahawks is 43. And of course, Colorado's 43 as well. And so is football, So I'll go through some of these games and see if we can find what they're doing here. Maybe some of the games will have a nice theme, tribute to the past, like Seahawks, Broncos. Got to think about some of these other games. But yeah, so for the rest of the day, I'm going to be finishing up the golf decode. I'm going to do another live stream on golf. I'm going to aim for 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern. Do the final golf decode. Be sure to check out yesterday's. I'm going to build on yesterday's. Make sure everything's real clear. And try to get my football notes finished so we can talk, start getting that football focus going on. Let me check the chat before we go here. Okay. All right. So you guys are agreeing on what games you like. Martin Brown's in the chat complaining that we're still talking about baseball. I said I wasn't going to throw out baseball. We're just doing a lighter focus. We're just skimming and trying to zero in on some patterns that we can use each day. So, okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. Be back 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern with the second part of the golf decode. And then tomorrow we can really zero in on the football games. So, see you this afternoon if you want to join in. Good luck, True Seeker.